Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. We got Nick Wright. We got a caffeinated Brandon Marshall. Kevin Wiles, also, I'm sure, down a couple cups this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he is. Yes, we got ourselves a big game tonight to talk about. You're going to need some, what is it, Big Face Coffee? Is that Jimmy Butler's coffee?
Big Face Coffee.
It's like 20 bucks
ahead of
a cup,
tonight's big
Jenna?
game. It is very pricey. It is almost up to Nick's standards. All right, let's get into talking about tonight's big game. The finals open up. We waited a long time for this. Lakers Heat, nearly every odds maker out there giving Miami little to no shot. But LeBron James hears none of that. He is locked in. He is focused. He is ready for game one tonight. Both teams have been dominant over this playoff stretch. Each only lost 3 games on their road to the finals. Here is LeBron on just how tough that road has been.
Probably been the most challenging thing I've ever done as far as a professional, as far as committing to something and actually, making it through. But I knew what I was coming, what we were coming here for. Obviously, you didn't. I would be lying if I sat up here and knew that everything inside the bubble, what it would, the toll that it would take on your mind and your body and and everything else. Because it's been extremely tough. But I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to compete for a championship.
You've heard that from a lot of players, just how tough the bubble stretch has been for a lot of these guys. But here we are, we're at the end, 2 teams left standing, Lakers, Heat. Nick, who needs tonight's game 1 win more, the Lakers or the Heat?
Well, the answer to that question to me is unequivocally, unquestionably the Miami Heat. And that's because Kevin Wiles, as you know, and as we've discussed, if you're tied in a series against LeBron James, what are you actually? You're trailing.
You're actually losing.
So right now the Heat, you're losing. So right now the Heat are losing the series because it's 0-0. So they need game 1 in order to even things up to get up 1-0. Additionally, here's another thing we know. The Miami Heat, by the way, this is a very good team. This is not a 5 seed. And I say that not in the way people are like, Portland's not an 8 seed. I say it in this way. They are a totally different team than they were pre-shutdown. During the pre-shutdown, Myers Leonard started 50 games for him. He's played 9 minutes, not 9 games, 9 minutes total in the bubble. Tyler Hero went from a nice second-team all-rookie performer to a guy who averaged nearly 20 points a game. Bam Adebayo is trying to take that leap into star, if not superstardom, that so many people thought Jason Tatum was going to take. This is a really good Miami Heat team, and that is not even mentioning Jimmy Butler. But they cannot beat the Los Angeles Lakers in a 7th game, which means they have to win 4 out of 6. They have to win 4 games in the first 6, which means they got to win game 1 because you're also not beating them 4 out of 5. The vice can really start to tighten on you here. So we know the Lakers can come back from 0-1. We know LeBron can come back from 0-1, Brandon, but the Miami Heat cannot. So you hesitate to call game 1 a must-win, but for the Miami Heat, it absolutely unequivocally is. Because if this thing goes 7, they lose. So they've got 6 opportunities to win 4. They absolutely must get one of them this evening.
So just to clarify, did you say the Heat or the Lakers is more important for the Heat or the Lakers?
Oh, it's
just
absolutely more important for the Heat. Yeah, it's more important for the Heat. The Heat have to win tonight in order to have a chance in the series.
Okay, no, I disagree with you. I think it's the Lakers. It's the Lakers because if you go back to last year, these 2 teams were sitting at home during this time. They didn't make the playoffs. And when we were having this discussion last year, as far as LeBron James and if AD was going to come and how this turned out, we definitely thought that the Lakers would be in this position. We knew that they would be contenders. We didn't think that the Heat would be here. And I say all that to say this. The Heat is playing with house money. I don't think internally they're thinking, hey, we're not supposed to be here, so we're going to, just go out there and play loose. I think they believe they should be here. They deserve to be here. They're good enough to beat this team. But outside looking in, we know, man, the Heat, man, they overachieved this year. There's so many different discussions here. You got LeBron James. If LeBron James loses this series, he'll be looking at a 3-7 record. And as far as his finals record, I don't know if it changes his legacy. I don't know if it changes that discussion. He wore that shirt that said "Leave a Legacy." Now I know he's one of the greatest of all time, but I also know that he's going to be the greatest of all time. And I don't know if you can be in that discussion if you lose this series. So this game is more important for the Lakers. It's more important for the Heat. I think it's going to come down to two players, the hottest offensive player in the bubble during the playoffs and the hottest defensive player in the bubble during the playoffs. That's Bam and AD. AD has not seen a matchup like this yet. Look what Bam did to Giannis. This is going to be really interesting. I think game one is going to say a lot. We'll see how this thing shapes out by the end of this game.
Hey, Nick, who is the Nick Wright for the Heat? And by that I mean you were on an island on Clippers Denver. Is there anyone out there that is the current Nick Wright of the NBA Finals that you see that's like, oh, that person's really locked in on the Heat? Is there anyone out there, or is it just all Lakers all the time?
Oh, like prognosticator? You think, yeah. There's,
Who's out
Chris
there?
Vernon, who co-hosts the Ringer NBA show with Kevin O'Connor.
Yeah, of course,
he
Chris.
picked the Heat in 6. I think someone on this show might at some point pick the Heat in 6. I'm not certain. I know, Wild, you desperately want to because of your affinity to Jimmy Butler and Big Face Coffee and Lululemon paraphernalia that you would like to. Jenna, I know, is rooting for the Heat just because she likes to see me feel pain. There's plenty, I'm sure, your dear friend Paul Pierce is going to explain why the Heat are actually the better team. So, yeah, they're out there. I mean, this is there will certainly be more people, Wilds, picking the Heat to beat the Lakers than we're picking the Nuggets to beat the Clippers. There's no question about that, Wilds.
Okay, because I feel like I just see Lakers, and I'll read a big analysis of it, and at the end it'll say, but it's the Lakers. And I think we can look at this a lot of ways, but we got to hope for a surprise. And it comes down to this, Brandon. Can a team beat two guys? And if you think the answer is no, then you take the Lakers. And it's happened one other time, and it's happened to the 2004 Pistons. In that series, Shaq went for 26 and 10, and Kobe went for 23. But the Pistons, Richard Hamilton went for 21, Chauncey went for 21, Rasheed went for 13 and 8, Ben went for 10 and 13, and Tayshaun went for 10 and 7. And that team beat the Lakers 4-1. So if the team concept is going to beat the two guys, I think we're going to see it in game one, because I think you have to see it right away.
Yeah,
we know
good.
the chemistry of the Heat is fantastic, and they have the same balance in scoring, Nick. Who's going to, when we talk about Chauncey was obviously MVP of that series. Who would, if the Heat win, which I know you don't like to sort of have a creative, thinking exercise, who would be MVP? Maybe it'd be Bam. Maybe it'd be Dragic.
No, it's Bam.
Maybe it'd be Tyler Hero. But any one of these guys could be MVP for the Heat if they won. They're just much more balanced, and I think it comes down to team concept versus two guys. I still think the Lakers win it.
Good.
But but there is a blueprint with the 2004 Pistons of how it could go the other way.
Just very quickly here, if the Heat 100%. Were to win, and I'm not dismissing it as an impossibility, Bam would have to be the MVP. But the difference between the 2020 Lakers and the 2004 Lakers is, you're right, it's a collection of talent versus two stars, similar to the 04 finals. But the 04 Lakers hated each other. And the 2020 Lakers love each other. That team was ripping apart at the seams throughout the season, and we saw it metastasize in the finals. So while you're right as far as production, the 2020 Lakers are two guys and then a bunch of role players. As far as team unity, they have no similarities to those 04 Lakers, Jenna.
And it's not always a good thing when everyone's picking one team to win. That can weigh teams listen, teams read. It's not great for the Lakers.
Brandon, are you about to make a pick? Wait, Jenna, sorry, hold on.
I didn't say anything. Jenna told me to wait. Jenna told me to wait. Jenna told me to wait. I got to listen to the boss.
Let's make it a pure tease. Thank you so much. We're going to get to who exactly Brandon Marshall is picking in this series, although he gave half of it away.
And who I'm picking.
LeBron James making his 10th finals appearance tonight. Talk to some NFL. Why is Cam Newton comparing himself to Tom Brady and Russell Wilson? We'll tell you next. First things first. Hold off a couple more minutes, Brandon. We'll get you.
Is there no...
Let's move on to a team very unlike the Twins, the New England Patriots. Every once in a while, Brandon. Every once in a while. All they seem to do is win in the postseason, these Patriots. This year, with Cam at the helm, they're off to a 2-1 start. The same record, by the way, as Brady and the Bucs. And it seems like those comparisons are going to be going on all season. To my point, Cam joined WEEI yesterday in Boston and talked about how he's handling the pressure of the never-ending quarterback comparisons. Take a listen.
I was laughing about a lot of things. I've been laughing a lot in my whole career by the analysis of who Cam Newton really is. And that's just the honest truth. And the fact that, here I am in year 10 still having to explain the person and the player that I am, it's just, and sometimes disrespectful, because we don't question certain quarterbacks. You don't have to question Russell Wilson. You don't have to question the Tom Brady's. And I hate the name drop, but it's just gotten to that point, that obviously me being the new face, and obviously, people are trying to find and dig into certain things. They don't necessarily know, that I'm the ultimate professional.
All right, Brandon, what did you make of what Cam had to say?
I get it, but he's off here, and here's why. And it's not bad, right, what he's saying, but Cam is counterculture to what a quarterback is supposed to be. And I've said this for years. Football players, we're some of the most institutionalized players out there. We sit in this box. Don't be a distraction. Don't be disruptive. Answer the question, oh, yeah, we'll get him next time. Cam Newton in day one came in and disrupted what it is and what it looks like to be a quarterback, how he dresses, how he celebrates, how he talks to the media. And I actually commend him for that. Like, we need Cam Newton. We need more of Cam Newton standing up and being authentic and comfortable in their own skin. But when you look at why this happens and why people question Cam Newton, is because when he walks into the building, it doesn't look like Eli Manning. It doesn't look like Drew Brees. When you look at the quarterback position, it's this level between the players and also management. They have to lead up. They have to lead down. I'm not questioning his leadership skills. However, when you come into this game and you say, I want to be an icon and I want to innovate and I want to be disruptive, this comes with the territory. Now, we are seeing, because of his career path and because of his approach to the game in life, we're seeing more guys being comfortable walking in their own skin.
So I buy that to an extent, Brandon, but you would think after a decade of pretty exemplary off-the-field behavior, he would have aged out of people questioning the person. People are never going to stop questioning the player. Like, there is no level you can accomplish where people, if you're still performing, aren't going to question you as a player, and that's fair. As long as, to quote Teddy Roosevelt or paraphrase him, you're the man in the arena. People are going to take shots or question whether or not you can continue to perform.
You question Tom Brady all the time.
Yes.
And he keeps performing. He
That's
keeps winning
my point.
Super Bowls.
That's my exact point. Is even Tom Brady is still getting questioned
Cam's been banged up. I mean, Cam's been banged up.
Right, hold on.
That.
Brandon, let me finish here. Because I don't think I think you're guessing where I'm going and I'm not. I'm saying it's totally fair to question him as a player. And I think even Tom Brady still gets questioned as a player. I think what's frustrating to Cam is being questioned as a person. And that's what he's hitting on. And we can say, well, it's because you haven't won. Like, Tom has won and Russell have won. Matt Ryan ain't never won a damn thing. Nobody questions who he is. Phillip Rivers never won a damn thing. Nobody questions, can he be a leader, who he is. Cam is held to a different standard. And, you know, Wilds, before the show, I pulled the curtain back a little bit. I think it's a very interesting window into the circles in which kind of we populate, which is, you said before the show, I don't know how interesting this is because we all think Cam's a really good guy. That's true, but we are the outliers. Like, that is not the general consensus. Despite all the evidence, despite all the charity, despite the footballs to fans, Cam Newton is still a decade into the league, a polarizing person, not just player, but person. And I think that's frustrating for him. Because I think he feels like, okay, listen, you want to question my shoulder, but what more could I do to prove I'm a good guy when people still don't want, some folks still question that in a way they don't question it with other quarterbacks with his track record, Wilds.
Yeah, this question, to pull the curtain totally back, when I saw this, I was like, I don't want to argue something against a foolish person, someone's out there that doesn't believe in Cam, and I have to deliver a soliloquy to this person to try to convince them that Cam is awesome. Look, Cam's been awesome since the day he got into the league. He has. He was fantastic. Talk to anyone who knew him in Carolina, and I knew someone that used to work for the Panthers, and she's like, Cam's charity work is something that people in Carolina took pride in. That his work in his stature in the community was unquestioned. And then there's other people living in God knows where. Like, I don't know, Cam Newton, he dresses too great. Like, it all comes down to, I think, the old people or the old guard have problems with awesome. Remember how you said, Nick, old people be lying? And you can turn this into a better phrase, like, old people don't like awesomeness. And I thought yesterday that we moved up a little bit. We moved the meter a little bit when Lamar Jackson wore his chain after the game with his big pendant. And I was like, fantastic. I was like, is the media going to lose their mind? And no one said anything, or at least I didn't hear anything. I was like, good. Let this guy be awesome.
Well, because of Cam
superstars.
Newton. Because of guys like
Wright,
Brandon. It starts with like the Ocho Cincos of the world. Cam Newton pushes it a little bit farther. He took it to a whole nother level. But when you are a trailblazer, and we know this, doesn't matter what industry you're in, this comes with the territory, and you have to be prepared for that. And while you hit it right on the head, when this pandemic hit, I reached out to a bunch of athletes, and what we were doing, we were trying to fuel the front line. We're trying to send recovery rooms into hospitals, and we wanted our nurses and caregivers to recover like us. You know, they're standing on their feet for 12, 13, 14 hours at a time. I called 100 pro athletes, some of the top of the top. Cam Newton was the first one to respond, and the very first thing he said was, hey, man, like, I want to be involved, but I don't want anybody to know. Right. And later on, he gave me permission to say, like, listen, I don't want to post about it. I don't want to do anything like that. But if you want to say I was a part of it, that's fine. But he was very adamant that he didn't want anybody to know. And he started going on about all the work that he's done. He's like, I'm not that type of guy. So I don't even think we know the impact he's made in not only the Carolinas, but also around the country and potentially around the world, because he doesn't talk about it. Right. So I think this is an interesting discussion. I respect Cam Newton for being comfortable in his skin, because I was a guy that had to learn how to do that early on in my career. However, this comes with the territory when you're an innovator and a trailblazer.
And I think it's important to realize that Brandon Marshall has Cam's phone number. All right, we're going to take a break. At 2-1, though, the Patriots can no longer go undefeated this season. But you know who can, Nick? You know who can? The Kansas City Chiefs. Nick makes a case. It's a good one. It's a good case. Stick around for it. Next, first things first. Back here, first things first, talking some Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones joined a local Dallas radio station yesterday, talked about the team everyone is chasing, the Chiefs. Jerry said, I see a team that's clicking. They're the Super Bowl champs, and they look like they got better. Just before the season, Nick, you picked these two teams, Chiefs, Cowboys, to meet in the Super Bowl. Are you still buying that as a Super Bowl matchup?
Before you go, Nick.
Obviously,
Before
one
you go,
half
Nick.
of-
Hold on, Nick.
Brandon,
Nick. Before you go, listen. You did a great job in the NBA where you didn't change up anything. You chose the Denver Nuggets, and no one did. So this is your moment, buddy. Double down.
Oh, well, don't worry about it. Of course, this is still my Super Bowl pick. Like, you've got, listen, you pick two teams in a Super Bowl pick, right? One of them is all but locked. So the Chiefs, let's go ahead and check that in. As Jay Billis would say, Sharpie it. Okay, so that one's fine. Now, on the other side, the Dallas Cowboys, I really, really like how half the team has looked. The offensive side of the ball, I don't think there can be many critiques of. They're turning the ball over too much. They're still hanging 30 points on their opponents. So on the offensive side of the ball, I like how Dallas looks. Defensively, they've been a disaster. There is no question about it, and they have to get that fixed if they are going to have a chance, Brandon, to make this Super Bowl pick end up being accurate. But I think they can fix some things. One is they'll get Leighton Vander Esch back from his broken collarbone. That will help. Another is, after the Texans got squeamish and walked away from Earl Thomas, he is still sitting out there. And while he's polarizing and while he had some variance, I feel like that secondary could use some accountability in Dallas. And I've got to believe, Brandon, at some point, DeMarcus Lawrence is going to awake from his 10-month slumber he's been in. It's been over 400 snaps since DeMarcus Lawrence last got a sack. At some point, he's going to get back to being the player that got that $105 million contract. So right now, are the Cowboys the favorites? No, you can't install them as the favorites. Am I going to change my pick? Of course not. Do they still have the upside of a Super Bowl contender? Absolutely. But they've got to get the defense right, Brandon.
Listen, last week in front of America, I revealed my man crush. I sat here in this very seat and said that I love you. That's what I said. And now, in this very seat, I'm going to say I respect you. Everybody from Michael, not Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin and you are the only ones that's sticking with their pick. You weren't the only one before the season that said, you know what, the Cowboys are going to do it. They're going to be contenders. This is the year. So I respect you for that. But everybody's like, I respect you for that. Very good, buddy. I respect you and I love you. Okay, we'll see what happens next week. But look, here's the deal. Like, they don't have a chance to be a contender, but they do have a chance to make it into the playoffs. When you look at it, they don't have a chance, man. Come on, think about this. They're struggling way too much. I love you. I love what you said about Earl Thomas. He's sitting out there. Go get Earl Thomas, please. Like, you have two trends that are alarming right now. Turnover. You can't win a game turning the ball over. You can fix that. And then the secondary, there's no way you can continue to give up big play after big play. Please go get Earl Thomas. I don't care if he's half of who he used to be. Go get Earl Thomas. The only chance that this team has, Wilds, is this division. We keep saying that, the NFC East is so tough. It's the best division in football. No, it's not. It's the messiest. So that's the only chance they have, because you're looking at a team that's sitting here at 1-2, and you have the Eagles at 0-2-1. Like, anybody can win this outside of the Giants. Like, this is so messy. So the Cowboys, guys, I do think, are the better team to get it fixed.
I'm going to jump in here because we teased it, because the audience is dying to know, because we talked about it yesterday. Before we go any further, do you even think, Nick, because this is what we talked about, that your Chiefs, this Kansas City team that looks so good right now, 3 games in, could go undefeated, and then we'll figure out who would be a good matchup for them?
Okay, so that's interesting. I like what you're doing, Jenna, which is moving the conversation from, are the Chiefs going to be in the Super Bowl, which everyone knows the answer, to a more intriguing question, which is, can they go undefeated? Which I will admit, there's some uncertainty there. If you come on television today and say the Chiefs won't go undefeated, I'm not going to call you an idiot. I'm not going to say that's a crazy hot take. But when you go to Baltimore, Wilds, and you do what they did, it sure is hard to find a game that they should lose. When you go to the second best team in football and you embarrass them, it's going to be hard to find a game you pick them to lose. And they have two, and I want to throw this to you quickly, Wilds. They have 2 tracks here. One is the 16-0 track, which would be unbelievable. A silver medalist, though, is can they get to 13-0? Because 13-0 would mean they break the 03-04 Patriots' 21 consecutive wins record. Right now they are sitting at, 12 straight wins? And those Patriots did this in 03-04 when they won back-to-back Super Bowls. The Chiefs obviously are going to do that as well. But now that they've gotten through Baltimore, you can start to ask, can they get to 13-0 and break that record? And Wilds, if they get to 13-0 and break that record, then of course 16-0 is going to be the next thing everyone's talking about. And as we're proving right here, some people are already talking about it. I would say smart people. What are you stressed out about, Wilds? What's the matter?
Well, I don't think
Your
you
hair
can get to
looks fine.
4-0, buddy. I don't think you're getting to 4-0. Before, and I'll address the 16-0 team first, which is, by the way, is coached by the same team that's coming into Arrowhead this weekend. When we went 16-0, here was our point differential for the first 4 games: 24 over the Jets, 24 over the Chargers, 31 over the Bills, and 21 over the Bengals. Here's been yours: 14 over the Texans, 3 a 58-yard field goal over the Chargers, and 14 over the Ravens. Granted, I'll give you the Ravens was that felt more dominant than the score. I don't think you're as good as the Patriots. I don't think you win this week. If you lose this week, I think there's a power change.
If they lose, they'll never be undefeated this season.
He's saying it's going to be a change of guards.
What? You think this will be a change?
Well, here's the deal.
I think this is like.
Here's the deal,
ahead, Brandon.
Here's the deal, Wiles. This is what every single player and coach do before the season, or right when the schedule comes out. We pull out the schedule and we go through it and we say, okay, this is a win, this is a loss, this is a win. Let me show you this graphic. I'm going to show you how this is going to play out. All right, so this is what every single player does. We go through it. As soon as they come out, we do. We absolutely do. This is a thing. Ask your guys. And then we go through it. So when you look at the Patriots, I think they're going to go in Foxborough and they're going to win this game. But it's going to be a close one because the Patriots present the Patriots present some tough matchup issues there. Las Vegas, that's a win. Now, however, when you go to Buffalo Thursday night football on Fox, this is where you're going to pick up your first loss. There's so much disrespect around the Buffalo Bills that it's alarming. Have you not watched these guys this year and last year? They have everything you need to win and win big. They'll win in Denver. They'll win against the Jets. I like this I love this Panthers game, but they'll win. It's going to come down to the very end, right before the bye. Oh, where am I going to go? Am I going to stay in KC? What are we going to do with the family? Then they'll win in Las Vegas. They'll win the next one in Tampa. It'll be a good game. Broncos, they'll win. Miami, they'll win. Oh, the Saints. Oh, they'll win that one. And then they'll win Atlanta. And then they're going to lose this last game. This is some unfinished business that the Chargers have. This is how the season's going to play out for the Chiefs. Scenario. They will not go undefeated in that.
Brandon,
Just like that.
I do respect. I mean, listen, you got 14 out of 15 right, which is pretty good. The Chargers game, if they were 14-1, I would imagine they would lose the Chargers game because they'll be resting everyone. They won't play Mahomes. They'll give everyone the week off. So that one, week 17, if they're not undefeated, they wouldn't be trying. But can I go back to Wild's point? Wild, this isn't like your group chat with all your fellow Bostonians talking about, was Brad Stevens overrated? Should you guys have traded for AD and the Cam's the greatest? We're on national television. Yeah. Are you really saying you think the Patriots are going to come into Arrowhead in 4 days and beat the Kansas City Chiefs? Because you're not one for picks. You don't like predictions. You stay away from it. You've locked the Blazers pick under your bed. You won't make a pick for the Heat even though you want to. You don't like picks. Yeah. And you're sitting here saying you are picking the Patriots to end the Chiefs' route to undefeated. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying this. The Ravens game looked like an and one mixtape. I don't think Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are going to be able to treat Bill Belichick like hot sauce and the helicopter and doing all sorts of trick plays on the Patriots. I don't think that will work. I think it will look a lot more like the Chargers game. A close game where Patrick Mahomes is not going to be able to do everything he wants. And then when it comes down to it, a close game, I think Bill Belichick is better than Andy Reid. So am I making a pick? No. Would I be shocked if the Patriots won? Absolutely not.
This is.
Oh my God!
What is this? This round two of the presidential debate? Is this round two of the presidential debate? Can we get an answer, please? Please.
No,
then you
I can't. Here's the answer. I can't predict the future.
We
I
are going
can't
to
predict
have
the future.
much more on Kevin Wild's lack of predictions coming up shortly. But I do have a question for the panel.
What are you guys talking
Guys,
about?
what would it mean if Anthony Davis took home Finals MVP honors over LeBron James? That to be discussed next. First things first.
Jenna, you can't say
take.
what we're talking about next.
Start Saturday strong as the 9th-ranked Texas Longhorns take on TCU. It all starts with the Big Noon Kickoff pregame show, 10 a.m. Eastern, all part of Big Noon Saturday on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Back to our top story this morning, our collective plans tonight. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. LeBron, AD, and the Lakers, high-powered offense, ready to go up against Jimmy, Bam, and that Miami Heat. Kevin, Nick, and I all will be on FaceTime chit-chat going over every ounce and every minute of this game. Hey, both these teams have skated through the playoffs so far. Brandon's out.
Snubbed.
Brandon, you're very lucky. No, he told me he doesn't want in. Each only losing 3 games on the road to the finals. Here's LeBron James on just how tough that road has been.
Probably been the most challenging thing I've ever done as far as a professional, as far as committing to something and actually, making it through. But I knew what I was coming, what we were coming here for. Obviously, you didn't. I would be lying if I sat up here and knew that everything inside the bubble, what it would, the toll that it would take on your mind and your body, and everything else. Because it's been extremely tough. But I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to compete for a championship.
All right, 2 things. One, Brandon, you have the green light whenever you want to join our ridiculously boring FaceTime game watching viewing parties.
It's okay.
I'm giving you the grace of not having to come. Number 2, our guy Antoine Walker's here. Twan, you too can join me on FaceTime anytime you want to watch basketball. Let's talk about what LeBron had to say. Of course. LeBron seems really focused. He seems just really sort of dialed into this series and getting ready for the finals to start tonight. What did you make of what he had to say, Antoine? It seemed like it.
Well, let me start with this. First of all, this is the perfect scenario for LeBron to be able to go into a bubble situation and have to focus strictly on basketball. A guy in year 17, a guy that wants to obviously win another title, if not multiple titles in L.A. You couldn't ask for a better scenario for him. Being in the Western Conference that's supposed to have been tough going into the bubble, you get neutral courts. You don't have to go into anybody's road gym where you get other teams and other players playing great because of the home crowd. And then you playing basketball. Your team now has to focus in on basketball and basketball completely. So it was great. I disagree with him saying it was so difficult and so tough. Any basketball player that wants to focus in on basketball, like myself, I play AAU basketball. I love the game. LeBron's a guy that's going to play 72 to 80 games a year. This was the perfect scenario, and it worked out really well for him. His guys are razor focused. That's the reason why you saw the Clippers have the meltdown they had. There was no razor focus with those guys. The Lakers had that razor focus, and he's got great contribution from his others. So this is a great scenario for LeBron. So I disagree with that on how tough it's been in the bubble. And for all those guys, and I'm not knocking the bubble. Obviously, I'm not there, but on the outside looking in, besides you having your family there on a consistent basis, it's basketball. This is what we live, we love to do since we've been doing probably since the age of 6. So it's not that difficult when you get an opportunity to play the game you love to play and be razor focused on it.
So let me respond to that, because there's the basketball angle and there's the non-basketball angle. On the basketball angle, you're saying, you bring up the point, they don't have to have any road games, but the teams that were hurt the most by neutral courts were the teams that earned the #1 overall seed. They lost that advantage of home games, game 1 and game 7 of every series being in their gym. Additionally, and I lost my earpiece, so nobody interrupt me real quick, then I'll fix it. Let me finish the point real quick. Additionally, the other part of this is the Lakers were the only team in the bubble, the only contender that had a significant contributor or starter just opt out. So they had to deal with that. But Antoine, what I think he's talking about when he said it's the most challenging thing I've ever done, I think he's talking from a personal perspective. His kids are not there. This is the longest in LeBron James' entire life he's been away from his children. And before, I believe his wife ended up coming, it was the longest he had ever been away from her. So I think he's talking about from that perspective, being disconnected from the people you care most about was the most challenging thing, not necessarily playing basketball on a neutral court for 90 days. But I do think that hurt the Lakers, Antoine, more than it hurt the Clippers or the Nuggets or any of these other teams that hadn't earned the #1 overall seed.
Nick, I'm not going. I don't want to make it but you got. I'm just saying this quick, Nick. I have to make an argument. But Nick, let me be honest with you. I played in the league, and come playoff time, you lock in. You look to get away from your family and friends come playoff time. So I have to disagree with LeBron on that. I'm not saying that it wasn't tough. And if you need your family to make you tick and go every day, I don't know if I wasn't that guy. Come playoff time, I wanted to lock in and play basketball. So to me, when I hear those comments, I laugh because it's hard pressed for you to tell me that it was super hard to play basketball because you couldn't see your family and friends with FaceTime and all these other things you got going on. You got a break for 90 days. It's okay. It's okay to get a break from your kids for 90 days, especially when you got older kids. If you got babies, Nick, if you got babies, I understand it, Nick. But LeBron doesn't have babies.
He's got a very young daughter.
Girl.
You got a very young daughter.
She's 7.
I think.
Yeah, she's 7.
Brandon,
she's okay with
jump
FaceTime.
in here.
I disagree. I disagree with you, Twan, and I think there's two stories here, and we got to look at both from the professional standpoint and the personal standpoint. Last night on Inside the NFL, I was able to see J.J. Watt mic'd up. We get all of the behind-the-scenes coverage, so you can see things that most people don't see. And J.J. Watt was sitting on the sideline in Pittsburgh during the game. And there was this moment where he's talking to a teammate. He's like, man, this is just awkward. Look how quiet it is. And in that moment, I was like, wow, the NFL and the NBA is doing a tremendous job of making us outside looking in believe that it's normal. Like it's hard for us as players right now to actually put ourselves in their shoes because they're dealing with something that we've never dealt with before. Playing the game with no fans, that's awkward. Being away from your family for months, that's difficult. And I think LeBron is talking about both. And what's interesting is when I first, got this opportunity to be on this show, I start calling around some of my NBA buddies. And I asked them, I say, hey, guys, tell me about the bubble. And tell me about LeBron. And tell me about all these other storylines that we'll probably be talking about. And one guy said something really interesting. He said, I think this is going to be a struggle for LeBron because LeBron, he's not a front runner, but he plays into the crowd. Like he's better when the crowd is around him, walking out and seeing everybody cheer for him and wearing his jersey. So I think this is interesting, and I believe LeBron that it is probably one of the most difficult things he's ever done.
Wild.
Okay. So I'll say something silly and then something serious. The silly thing is this. If I was in the bubble, I'd be like, get me out of here. If I got to turn on my TV and watch NFL playing and baseball playing and college football playing, and I'm here eating my Mickey Mouse waffles again, I'd be like, guys, let's get 4 and be done. I'm ready to go back. I worked NBA finals and conference finals for 2 or 3 years with the company in Bristol, as the bosses like to have me say it. And after a while, I talked to someone like, hey, who do you got in game 6? I'm like, I don't care. I want it to be over. I'm cooked. I am done. I'm ready to go home. So I agree with LeBron that this is super challenging. That was the silly part. Here's the serious part, Nick. I thought this was very telling of LeBron. And I think he's always talked about we've made it kind of a joke about how he's gotten off of social media and he's needed to focus in. The fact that there's so many things on his plate in the real world that the idea that he has to perform at his highest level ever without any personal support of his family to just blow off steam, and being a leader of the entire league in a pandemic, and being really his stature as a figure in the fight for social justice and social change and political change has gotten even higher in the bubble. And I think that everything that he's saying here is like, I do all of that. That is a full-time job. And by the way, I have to go out and give you 30 and 10. So I thought it was a very revealing moment. And if he does come out of this bubble with the championship, I don't think it will be I think it will be the most impressive thing that he's ever done.
Listen, and I'll be very quick here, but the Lakers were the team most adversely affected by no home court because they had the #1 seed. They were the team most adversely affected by the opt-outs because they're the only contender who had a starter opt-out. They were the team whose superstar, when the league was potentially going to leave the bubble, their superstar has to be on the phone with the commissioner figuring out how to make sure everything stays together.
Yep.
They're the team whose superstar is the one who's also trying to get disenfranchised voters their rights back in Florida, meanwhile doing all these different issues in the real world. Like, that is... Of course, there's more on his plate than anyone else's plate. And of course, after 15 years of this, we shouldn't be surprised he's handling it as well as anyone in the history of the league possibly could, this side of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But I don't, listen, as annoying as kids can be, Antoine, I don't think it's fair to be like giving 90-day break. It's a good thing. I mean, listen, I understand we're all a little into the homeschooling and everything. Maybe a 9-day break. 90 days, Jenna. I'd miss my kids after 90 days. I can miss them for 9, but 90 be a little much, Jenna.
After 90.
Good for
Listen, if LeBron wants to go home, he's got to come out and win in 4, and that starts tonight, game 1 against Miami. So we'll see.
Could also lose in 4,
we'll talk
for the
some
record,
football
Jen.
now.
Could also lose in 4.
It could also lose in 4. That is how it works. Can Cam Newton and the Patriots end the Chiefs' pursuit of a perfect season? That is next. This is First Things First. Back here talking Patriots Chiefs on First Things First. Sunday afternoon at Arrowhead. KC off to a 3-0 start, thanks in large part to their stud quarterback. New England off to a 2-1 start, thanks in large part to a great ground game. Bill Belichick knows he'll need that ground game and about 2,000 other things to leave with a win on Sunday. Take a listen.
You know, they're a good football team, very talented, well coached, play with a lot of poise and discipline. So, you know, we know we're going to have our work cut out for us in Kansas City. It's a championship football team, and, you know, we're going to have to play our best game and coach it.
Play our best game, and with that, we welcome in our best guest, named Eric Mangini. Coach, good morning. Thanks for being with us this morning. No, there's no shot.
Just Coach, the best guest.
Well, you know,
he's just our best guest.
Who else we had on?
Okay, well, that went really well. Coach, what would a win over the Chiefs mean for the New England Patriots? We love you, Coach. Welcome here, our favorite guest.
First of all, I can't believe you found such unique sound from Bill Belichick praising an opponent. That must have been hard to put together. You don't hear that every single week for the last 20 years. And I'm a little disappointed. I don't get invited to FaceTime basketball parties. We got 90-day vacations from our families. What's going on? Like, I'm gone for a little while and everything changes. It's amazing. That's good. In terms of the game, I think that this is. I think there's an excellent opportunity for New England to win this weekend. I think the thing that New England can do that's a little bit unique is that they're able to put together the same problems that the Ravens can put together with Cam Newton, but Cam's done a better job to this point passing than Lamar Jackson. You saw that against Seattle. I think he's actually thrown the ball remarkably well, especially considering he's coming off of an injury. So it's a unique combination of problems that they can create offensively that I don't think Kansas City has dealt with. Add to the fact that New England's #1 in the league in rushing, and Kansas City's 27th in rush defense. I think there's a lot of problems that New England create, and it's additional. Or the additional fact is Mahomes has typically struggled with the Patriots defense, whether it's in the first half or in the second half, there's been those big blocks of time where he struggled.
Let's go.
Oh, we don't have Brandon's sound.
We have Brandon's.
So
Go ahead, Nick.
No,
I'll
that's
jump
me. I
in
cut it
for
out.
Brandon
If it was
real
Patriots
quick.
slander, I cut it out.
So, all right, Coach.
Nick can't hear. Brandon can't talk.
Listen, a number of things here. Because this is going to be a tough weekend for Kevin Wildes. Because this is the weekend that you're going to officially find out the Patriots are contenders. AFC East contenders. But when they play a Super Bowl contender or Super Bowl favorite, they're going to fall quite short, particularly this weekend. Now, you're right, Coach. The Patriots are an excellent running team, and they won't abandon it. They will keep running, and they will make the Chiefs prove they can stop the run. Thankfully, we just saw 36 hours ago the Chiefs take on a historically great running team and hold them to one offensive touchdown. And this idea that Patrick Mahomes has struggled against the Patriots when they've scored 30-plus points every time they've played each other. You do this a weird thing, Coach, when it's Mahomes and the Pats. You're like, well, there was this block of time he wasn't good. Yeah, but what happened at the end of the game? They've had the lead in the final 2 minutes every game they've ever played against New England. The Chiefs' defense let it go the first 2 times. Despite that, Mahomes put them in position to win, and the defense is better than it's been at any point in the Mahomes era right now this year. So I don't think it's I don't think saying Mahomes has struggled with the Patriots is fully accurate when you look at the full 60 minutes of the game. He has started slow against the Patriots, Coach, but he has not struggled, at least to my eye, against them over the course of the entire game, Coach.
Well, I don't think it's fair to say that he hasn't struggled with the Patriots, because there has been a bunch of times where he's looked confused. They've gotten off to incredibly slow starts, and they did get hot late. And look, that formula may work. It's not high percentage football. And in terms of playing a really good running team, they did. But as we know, Baltimore right now is struggling with the element of being one-dimensional. And one thing that the Patriots have shown over this course of 3 weeks, and it's a very small exposure. I get that. It's not a big block of information that we're working off, but they've shown that Cam can throw the ball and throw the ball effectively. The completion percentage that he has right now is the best in his career. And again, it's a 3-game piece that we're looking at. Now the Patriots can create the problems that the Ravens create in the running game, but they can also throw the ball, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Kansas City can deal with both.
Yeah, a win over the Chiefs would mean that they're the real deal. I mean, you got to think about this. This team coming in, I think inside their locker room, inside that building, they think that they could be really good. But if they win this game, I think they're going to start believing they can be great. You got to also look at, this is a rebuilding year for the Patriots. Think about that. Most teams, when they're in a rebuild year, they're not sitting here in 2-1 and having this discussion to even possibly beat the Chiefs. So to me, if they win this game, I think everyone's going to say the Patriots are the real deal. I think there's already people around the league saying that they're contenders. It's going to be a good game. And Coach, you bring up some interesting points. I think what the Patriots do is going to present some challenges. They can run the ball. We know that. And then Cam Newton passing the ball. It's not like this Chiefs secondary is really good. They have 2 guys on that defense that really stands out, and everybody else just play their part. Now, offensively is where you have the challenges with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. We all know that storyline. But if they win this game, the Patriots are the real deal.
Yeah. Brandon, I reject the idea that it's a full rebuilding year. One time I covered this ultra marathon race, and you have to run for 72 hours. I'm like, don't you guys rest? He's like, we recover while we're moving. I was like, ooh, that's a good thing. So they're still jogging, but they're resting at the same time. They're still trying to win, and they're resting. That's what the Patriots do.
Rests.
That's
Coach.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. So, Coach, we know sort of the Belichick mantra of he takes away your best thing, right? So we saw the Raiders tight end Darren Waller have a monster game against the Saints, and then oh, what time is it? Did he even play? Oh, he showed up. He caught it. He got a catch. 4 minutes left in the game. Very simple. Now I watch this. I thought that's what's going to happen with the Chiefs. I'm like, get ready, Nick. We're going to take away your best thing. And they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff. They're throwing the ball to fullbacks. They're doing under shovel passes. They did a thing with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Tyreek Hill and Mahomes. They're just moving the ball around. It's like something you draw up for little kids. So, like, what are the Patriots going to do, or what did Belichick learn from watching that Ravens game since the game plan was so weird?
Well, one of the things that I like about Kansas City, and I like that Patrick Mahomes has done, is he, similar to Brady, has been very good about distributing the ball. He's not trying to force it into one player, and that makes the offense that much more dangerous. Plus, there's multiples of multiples with formations and shifts and motion, so there's a lot to deal with. One of the things that you can do defensively, though, is keep him in the pocket. He makes a ton of plays outside of the pocket, and broken plays are big plays. He's got that ability, so that'd be a starting point. I'd say the second thing is not to be predictable. If anything, maybe it's double Kelsey early and then switch it up, shift the double to somebody else. When we used to play Peyton Manning, there were times where we'd have a game plan in the first half and then a radically different game plan in the second half that was practiced during the week. And the whole thought process was when he goes into the locker room and works on what we've done, then we come out and we give him something totally different. So it doesn't make any sense. Now, not all teams can do that, but New England is one of those teams that does have the capability to do that.
And listen, and New England has gotten out to a lead in every game they played against Patrick Mahomes. In their first two games, they got out to double-digit leads. And in both of those first two games, which the Chiefs ultimately lost, Mahomes had the Chiefs in the lead with less than 2 minutes remaining, coming back from double-digit deficits, and the defense let down. But this Patriots offense no longer has Gronk, who annihilated the Chiefs in 2018 in both of their matchups. And this Chiefs offense is better, and the Chiefs defense is far better. Like, listen, I picked the Patriots to win the AFC East. I know everyone loves the Bills. I'm still picking them to win the AFC East. They are a good team, but they are going up against the best team. Seattle's got a very good offense. Patriots defense couldn't stop it. The Chiefs have the best offense. The Patriots defense is not going to be able to stop it. It's not an indictment. Here's the thing, Jenna, I know we can talk about it more later. The Patriots will have in common with every single team the Chiefs play this year. They'll lose. That's okay. Everyone's going to. It's not a problem, Jenna. There's no shame in that. But let's not, I don't want... Boston fans are already dealing with their Celtics disappointing against the Heat. We don't need to, ratchet up expectations for Sunday. We got to be fair to these folks. Good people in New England.
I don't know if the Chiefs are going to win or not, but the measuring stick once owned by the Patriots now seem to be owned by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and we're using that stick.
Let's talk some basketball now.
Smacking folks
more
with it.
Specifically, little Clippers. We surprised Kawhi and Paul George didn't push harder to keep Doc Rivers. Whack! First things first. Hey, baseball's postseason is upon us. FS1 will be your home for the National League Divisional Series. It all gets underway on Tuesday. The NLDS on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Hey, let's talk some Clippers now. Did Kawhi and Paul George have any say in Doc Rivers' exit from the team? It turns out the two were reportedly asked for input on the move, but neither presented a strong enough case for Doc to stay on. And Clippers owner Steve Ballmer made the final decision after that to let Doc go. Antoine Walker is back with us now. Antoine, you surprised Kawhi and PG didn't push Ballmer harder to keep Doc Rivers for next season?
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised because I played a half a season with Doc. I didn't have the full season that those guys have had with Doc. But knowing from Paul being one of my good friends, how he treats superstars, and obviously witnessed it myself, he's a great coach for superstars. He treats superstars really, really well. He puts them on a pedestal. He gives them numerous days off. He really works hard to make sure those guys feel very special, from my understanding and what I've experienced with him. He's a great offensive-minded coach. I'm a value shooter. I was never a high percentage guy when I shot the basketball. But when I played for him, he put me in great spots, and I shot my career best under Doc Rivers. So I know how great of an offensive mind he is as a coach. It's surprising that they would not defend him and support him and ask for another year to let those guys redeem themselves. Because I know for a fact he's probably done everything he can to make the situation very comfortable for them, especially Kawhi Leonard, by now allowing him to practice, miss games, make the proper adjustments that needed throughout the season to accommodate both of these guys so they can be the superstars they are. So I am very surprised they did not support him 110% and really forced him to give another shot with this group to come back the following year.
Yeah, but Twan, how do we know what was said in those meetings? Like, we don't know. And think about this. If you're Paul George and you're meeting with Ballmer, you know, you're probably walking there on eggshells. You're not confident because you're probably thinking I'm part of the problem and they're going to shit me out possibly. And that's some of the rumblings that we're hearing. So I just don't know if that is even a story. But when you look at what was reported and what was said between Ballmer and Coach Rivers, they weren't on the same page. Coach Rivers laying out a plan saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work on, you know, so have some coaching changes, some schematic changes. We need a point guard. Next year will give us more chemistry. And then you have Ballmer, who understands leadership at the highest level, as just like Coach Doc Rivers. And he's like, well, where's the leadership? Why was there lacking leadership on this team? Where is the chemistry? And why didn't my guys want to play? So I think because of that, two guys on separate pages, that's why they had to move on. I don't think it's a player's issue because when you look at it, they don't have the leadership. Kawhi's not a leader. Paul George has his own issues. Lou Williams, who's considered a leader, is at a strip club before the bubble starts or during the start of the bubble. And then you have Montrez.
How dare you?
You have Montrez. Who's the sixth man, and that's not a pushover accolade. That's a big deal to win the sixth man, and he comes in out of shape. Like, that just shows the lack of leadership and professionalism from this team.
So listen, I don't blame Ballmer for moving on from Doc. I think I think it is. Ryan Hollins brought up an interesting point yesterday that I think warrants some inspection, which was the timing about Ballmer was waiting to see what the Nuggets looked like against the Lakers. That if the Nuggets somehow ran roughshod over the Lakers, then it's like, oh, okay. Like, it's just the bubble. It's weird. We ran into this crazy hot team. Jokic and Murray are the next great, Shaq and Kobe, and you just... But then they saw the Nuggets losing 5 to the Lakers. It's like, oh, no. This loss was as bad as we thought it was. And that's why Doc ends up leaving. But the meltdown against the Nuggets is not primarily on Doc. That team was healthy. That team was up 3-1. That team had big second-half leads. And their stars could not bring it home for them. And now their coach ends up being fired because of it. So, Antoine, I kick this to you. No matter who the next coach is, that guy right there, Kawhi Leonard, doesn't he have to go into next year adjusting some things? Doesn't he have to go into next year for the first time in his career attempting to be a vocal leader? Doesn't he have to go into next year willing to play a regular amount of basketball games, not 82, but closer to 70 than to 60? Because they're not going to be able to change the roster dramatically. In large part, this is going to be the team they have next year. So no matter who the coach is, Antoine, doesn't it start with whether or not Kawhi is going to make the requisite adjustments to redeem what happened in the final 3 games against Denver?
Well, I do agree he has to play better, obviously, in closeout situations. He's done that a lot in his career where he's played well. But I think his leadership skills do have to get better off the court. And I always talk about this, and I've said this numerous times in the show, LeBron James, that's where he separates himself at. He gets guys to buy in. Whatever unique tricks he uses, whatever he does, whether it's going to dinners, whether it's inviting guys to his house, Kawhi Leonard has to step outside his shell if he wants to be a champion for the Clippers. If he wants to take this team to the next level. Well, I don't know if he is going to do it. He left Toronto, a situation where he could have stayed in the role that he was in and been a great player, and they could have been out the Eastern Conference for the next 2-3 years. That's how good they were with Kawhi and the way the Eastern Conference set up. But now you out west where competition is a lot stiffer. It's going to be much harder to get there. You have some voids to fill on your roster. Now you have a coaching vacancy. He has to step up. And if he wants to be a champion and if he wants to win, we'll see what type of player Kawhi is. But you got to understand, everybody's built differently. Kawhi may not have 3-4 championships in him. We may believe that as a skill set, we may say, oh, he can win 3 or 4 championships. LeBron is different. LeBron is chasing the greatest. LeBron wants to be in the conversation with the Michael Jordans, the Magic Johnsons, the Bill Russells. We don't know Kawhi. He's very quiet. He's very sheltered. He doesn't talk a lot. We don't know where he wants to be at as a pro and where he wants to finish his career. He may be content where he's at right now. I know he left a lot of money on the table. I know he left a place that loved him dearly, and they would do anything for him. Now you with the Clippers, all that stuff is out the window. You got to perform now. Now you just got a very good coach fired. Now a new coach has to come in. It's a lot of responsibility on his head. Now the cover's off Kawhi right now. He has to step up now as a leader on and off the court to get this organization to the next level. And we'll see if he wants that. But he may not want it. That question still remains, and we'll see that over the next couple months.
But Antoine, I think you made an interesting point about LeBron and LeBron's vocal leadership. LeBron has been like that since he was 16 years old, and he has shown it in every aspect of his life. In the time, Nick, that he said, I'm going to be someone else, I'm going to wear the black hat for the Miami Heat, what happened?
Failed.
It's like, I'm not myself.
That was the one time he failed.
I feel it doesn't work. So asking Kawhi to be this vocal leader when we haven't seen it, and he's like, you know what, guys? By the way,
then
go to my trophy case. I have 2 Finals MVPs playing the way I do. It just didn't work this time. I don't need to become a new person.
No, hold on. But let's split it then. If he's not going to become the vocal leader and inviting everyone to dinners, at the very least, be a leader not just with your performance in the games, but your attendance to practices. With the way that you set the template for how seriously guys are going to take the season. Don't show up late to the bubble, which then maybe makes Lou Williams say, Magic City does look pretty good, and those wings are delicious. There is an element of that. And so I think even if you can't ask Kawhi, Jenna, to be given speeches, you can ask him to set an example, not just by being a great mid-range player and great defender.
But, Antoine, you're right. He's never done it before. All of a sudden have him just turn it on, it's really hard for someone to do that. We shall see. All right, I got a question for you. Is this the year we're going to see a team go 16-0 in the NFL? And if so, how are the Chiefs going to do it? Yeah, they did there, Nick. Next. First things first.
Real betrayal on my book.
All right, sorry about your loss last night, Twins. Come back, get him again. Coach Mangini's back with us now. Talk a little Chiefs, Coach. The defending Super Bowl champs have gotten off to a perfect 3-0 start, and our friends at Fox Bet have noticed they have the Chiefs odds to go undefeated at plus 1,600. The same odds, by the way, as Coach saying, let's not get ahead of ourselves with all the undefeated talk. But, Coach,
no.
I still got to ask you.
Not the same odds.
Nick floated the hypothetical yesterday. I have no idea how odds work. Never have, never will. I know. I'm well aware. I wrote it as a joke, and it failed on me. Coach, do the Chiefs have what it takes to pull off a perfect season?
Salvage that one.
Well, Jenna, I'll try to be a football Nostradamus like you were a baseball Nostradamus back in 2004. That's a pretty good prediction that you had there, Jenna. I'm very impressed with that.
Restart here.
Or I could be a TV executive. Either one. We're all
take your choice.
Earlier. So here's the.
Mine's true.
Here's my feeling on this, and here's my experience with this. So when we won back-to-back Super Bowls in 03 and 04, one of the most difficult or disappointing parts of those seasons were some of the losses that we had. Okay, so the first year we go 14-2. And the one team that we lose to is Steve Spurrier's Washington Redskins. And it was a function of us not being emotionally ready to play and them looking at it as an opportunity to beat somebody who, they were much more up for the game than we were. Okay, fast forward to the next year, we're 12-1, and Miami, I think, is 2-11, okay? And at that point, Dave Wannstedt had resigned. Ricky Williams had retired. It's an interim head coach, Jim Bates. There's no chance that we're going to lose that game. But what do? We go down to Miami, and we lose that game. And the difficulty in maintaining the intensity week in and week out is that every team is up for you, and it's their biggest game of the season. And mentally, it's hard to have that same sort of intensity, especially against the teams that you're expected to beat. And guys will take buys that aren't scheduled buys, and then you turn around and you're in the fourth quarter and you're waiting for someone to make a play, and nobody has it that day, and that's when you get beat. And if you look at Kansas City, they took a mental bye the second week of the season. They played the Chargers. Yep. It's a rookie quarterback.
Got away with
no
it.
one expects him to be in the game, and it's two 58-yard kicks that allow them to squeak by. So it's hard to maintain that intensity week in and week out, especially against the teams that you're supposed to beat easily.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, the Charger game was our version of your guys' game against Washington. The difference is we won it. Like, that's it. I mean, they should have lost that game. No doubt about it. They absolutely should have lost, got outplayed, got incredibly fortunate that Harrison Butker made two of the best kicks of his life, one to cut it to 8, one in overtime, 58 yards, but they won it. And then they annihilated the Ravens. And so right now, when I look to the right of the screen and I see Kevin Wildes, who represents the 07 Patriots, and then I see Coach Mangini, who represents the 03-04 Patriots, we're coming for both of y'all. But before we can get to Wildes, we got to get to what is one of Coach's, understandably, I believe, proudest achievements as a coach, which was what those 03-04 Patriots did. It wasn't just the back-to-back Super Bowls. It was the 21 straight wins over the course of 2 seasons, which many people thought was going to be an untouchable record. But the Chiefs are reaching out, just trying close enough to touch it. Because if they get to 13-0, they break that record. And I did not predict going into this year that they would break that record, because I thought they would lose at Baltimore. But they didn't. And now they won't be underdogs again until they're at New Orleans. That's the earliest they could be underdogs. And at that point, they would be 13-0 and have broken that record. And so I don't think it can be dismissed. I understand it's early, Brandon, but it's not ridiculous. They have the best offense in the league, the best quarterback in the league, the best play caller in the league, and a greatly improved defense. That's the recipe, plus a bad division. That's the recipe to have this truly be a discussion throughout the year.
Well, let's have fun with it. Yeah, it's too early, but since we're here, let's have fun with it. Coach, you said 03-04, you guys, what was the finishing record? 14-2? Is that what you said?
14-2, both, back-to-back Super Bowls.
Interesting. So let's take Nick Wright's graph, okay, and let's put my graph up there, but let's finish the season. Let's go through what if, okay? So when you look at this, Coach, I have them going 14-2 as well. Wow, would you look at that? I think they're going to go in. I think they're going to beat the Patriots. I think they're going to beat Las Vegas. And then you got Thursday Night Football against the Bills. I don't know why so many people disrespect the Bills, but this is where you're going to find that first loss right here. Not because the team is not up emotionally, but because there's a really good team. Now you fast forward to week 17. This is the rematch. They should have beat you week 2, but then they're going to beat you week 17. And this is how they're going to go 14-2. I love it.
That's not bad.
So I'm going to combine your points, Brandon. I thought you said something very interesting about a rematch. And Nick, this is a hot take that you're going to have to switch around. I know you. The show is built on a foundation of take integrity, but I think this is going to change your mind. Coach, I have a theory that in our 18-0 season, if I could do it over again, I would lose that last game to the Giants. Because once the rematch came around and they knew they could beat us, and maybe we weren't up for it, maybe they had the blueprint, but we lost. And I wish we were 18-1 the other way and have the Super Bowl rather than losing that final game. So the question to you is an undefeated season actually a good thing for the Chiefs? Because I think it was a bad thing for the Patriots.
Well, look, everybody's chasing perfection, and the Patriots obviously would have loved to have lost the game earlier in the season, or they would have loved to have lost 5 games early in the season in order to win the Super Bowl. No one's going to make that trade-off. It's a really, really incredible feat if you can accomplish that. And nobody's done it since what? The Dolphins in what year was that? Where they were undefeated?
74.
But
72.
Yeah,
72.
72. And things were a little bit different back then in terms of the structure of the league. We go on and on, but it's a really hard thing to do. And you know, as you look down that list of this should be a win, this should be a win, the losses we had late in the season were teams that should have been a win. And when you count on Patrick Mahomes being Superman every single week, that's okay until that 1 week where he's Clark Kent. And whether or not the rest of the team can rise up at that point, we just don't know.
Well, so all right, so
Cam
two
is
quick
Superman,
points.
everybody.
One is Wilds. One is to you, and it's one of the hottest takes I could possibly have, and I don't even know if we have time to get into it. But the 07 season was better and more impressive than at least 2 or 3 of your Super Bowl wins. Like, you don't even remember every year you guys won the Super Bowl. Like, you can't name the exact years. I know Coach hates that take, which is why I just have to move on to the next take. I know Coach.
That is a terrible.
The undefeated season is absolutely more impressive than the Super Bowl win over the Rams. It's absolutely more impressive than the Super Bowl win over the Rams. You can't not the 01 Rams, but the 2018 Rams. Second point, Coach. Let me ask you this. It was way too early to talk about the Chiefs going undefeated before the year. You were talking about you don't start where you finish, all of this stuff. Get it. You've now seen them play about 20% of their season. You've seen them annihilate 2 playoff teams from last year, including a team many people thought was the best team in football in Baltimore. Are you at the very least impressed with how the Chiefs have looked to start the season and their ability to keep their focus on the big picture? Can you give me that?
I was really impressed when a rookie quarterback in his first start took him to 153 left in overtime.
What about
and
the
they
other
had to hit 258-yard.
What about weeks 1 and 3?
258-yard field goals to win the game. I mean, that's high percentage.
What about the
football.
other games? What about the other games? What about the other games?
Yeah, they did nice.
He's talking about a third of the games.
You asked me about all 3 games. Is that game not part of it?
Eric Mangini, as always, great to have you. Thank you so much. Question, Cam Newton, why is he comparing himself to Russell Wilson and Tom Brady? We'll talk about that next. Have a great day, Coach.
Bye, guys.
Start Saturday strong as the 9th-ranked Texas Longhorns face the TCU Horned Frogs. Longhorns and Horned Frogs. It all starts with the Big Noon Kickoff pregame show, 10 a.m. Eastern, all part of Big Noon Saturday on Fox, any Fox Sports app. All right, back to our top story this morning. You know, it took a hot minute, but here we are. NBA Finals, Lakers Heat kicking off tonight. So nearly every odds maker out there giving Miami little to no shot of winning this series. But LeBron James, here's none of it. He is locked in. He is focused. Here is the king on how tough his road to the finals so far has been.
Probably been the most challenging thing I've ever done as far as a professional, as far as committing to something and actually, making it through. But I knew what I was coming, what we were coming here for. Obviously, you didn't. I would be lying if I sat up here and knew that everything inside the bubble, what it would, the toll that it would take on your mind and your body and everything else. Because it's been extremely tough. But I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to compete for a championship.
All right, Nick, so we've talked so much about how important it is to get off to a fast start, a really quick start in any of these series. But for game 1 tonight, Lakers Heat, who needs this win more?
Oh, the Heat have to win. If the Heat are going to have any chance of winning this series, we know the Heat can't win a Game 7, so they have to win. You can't beat LeBron in the Game 7. It hadn't been done in a dozen years since he was 23 years old. So you've got to be able to win it in 6, and so they've got to win Game 1. We know the Lakers absolutely can win a series when losing game 1. They actually did that in round 1 and round 2. And I would imagine LeBron uses this game as a bit of a feel-out game. He only attacks game 1s as must-wins if his team is a massive underdog. We've seen him do it in the finals against the Warriors, the 51-8-8 performance the last time we saw him in the NBA Finals. He knew they had to steal game 1 to have any chance in that series. They weren't quite able to do it. They end up getting swept. So I think this is going to be the Heat's best chance, because I don't think LeBron's going to be in full attack mode, and because the Lakers have gotten off to relatively slow starts in this series. And Brandon, if the Heat are going to have any chance in this series, I mean, I'll reveal it now. I said 3 weeks ago the Lakers are going to go 5-5-5-5 through the playoffs. I'm 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah.
That's going to be my pick here, Lakers in 5. But if the Heat are going to have any chance to pull off the upset, that zone is going to have to be dispatched of almost immediately. That zone will not work against LeBron James. They are going to have to ask Mr. Big Face Coffee himself to elevate himself into true superstardom by doing it on both ends and guarding LeBron. Iggy is too old. Crowder is too slow. It is going to have to be Jimmy Butler guarding LeBron James with Bam Adebayo waiting at the rim. That is the Heat's path to victory, plus Duncan, Robinson, and Tyler Hero raining threes. It's a narrow path, but that is the path, and it starts with Jimmy Butler being able to somewhat contain LeBron James, because he's really their only option, in my opinion, and that zone is not going to work.
I don't think that's the only option. I think it really comes down to the hottest guy on defense in the bubble during the playoffs and the hottest guy on offense in the bubble during the playoffs. And that's going to come down to AD going against Bam. But before I even dive into that matchup and why I believe that, I got to answer the question. This is more important for the Lakers. You go back to last season, neither of these teams made it to the playoffs. They were sitting at home. They may have been in Orlando at Disney. Who knows where they were at? And when you looked at the makeup of that offseason and them entering the season, we knew that, the Lakers could be a contender. The only people that really, truly is standing in their way is the Clippers, the guys on the other side of the town. But then when you look at the Miami Heat, everyone said, oh, that's a great pickup for the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler going there. But did we really think that Jimmy Butler was going to be a difference maker to bring them to the finals? No, nobody thought that. So when you think about, is it important? They're playing with house money. Like, who cares? But internally, do I think Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley and even Haslam, who sits on the bench and doesn't even play, but he's that emotional leader and he does a great job in that role. But those guys think they're supposed to be here. Those guys think, they were built for this moment. So I don't think that, they're looking at this as, oh, we're playing with house money. I think it's an outside thing, and I think we're probably closer to the truth than they are. But the Lakers, they gotta win this game because it's a matchup nightmare. And I go back to my point of what it comes down to. It comes down to AD and Bam. AD hasn't been challenged all playoffs. He hasn't. And when you look at Bam, Bam has done a tremendous job. You can go back to the Bucks series and what he did against Giannis. So AD turning this guy into a perimeter player is going to be the difference in the series.
That's right. No,
you know what's interesting? The other thing, Brandon, and we talk about chemistry when it doesn't work, right? When the Clippers flame out, we say, oh, it's chemistry. Yeah. They didn't have it. They weren't a team. This team really loves each other. And Nick, Ramona talked about it earlier in the year. I think she said this is like one of the most gelled Lakers team. I think the only team that likes each other more than the Lakers are the Heat. It's a fantastic team. They're like, who would you want to play for? Like, I'd like to go play with the Heat.
That's right.
And the only way the Heat can win, and I know there's some tactics and some strategy, but guess what? Your old buddy Kevin Wilde is not an NBA head coach. He is an expert on basketball history and the soft data, though. Here's how they can win. Comes down to the question of this. Can a team beat two guys? That's it. It's AD and LeBron. Can you stop them? Probably not. But can a team stop them? Probably. That's what Chauncey did. That's what Rasheed Wallace did. That's what Rip Hamilton did. In that series in 04, Shaq went for 26 and 10. Kobe averaged 23, and they lost 4-1. Rip had 21. Chauncey went for 21, won MVP. Rasheed went for 13 and 8. Ben Wallace went for 10 and 13. Tayshaun went for 10 and 7. You know what that reminds me of? The good old Miami Heat. They got 4 guys averaging 19 points in the Eastern Conference Finals, Nick. I think there's a real chance here. If they come together, you see it immediately. You see it in game 1, and you're like, uh-oh, AD and LeBron's not enough, just like Kobe and Shaq wasn't enough, Jenna.
But
it's a good point.
Brandon,
you got to respect it, Nick. You got to respect it.
Go ahead.
No, that's it. You just got to respect it. It's a good point. It's 2 guys going against a team.
Right. But there's a reason the 04 Pistons are famous, because they are the one instance. They are the one instance of a team without a true super-duper star to go and do what they did. And the biggest difference between the 04 Lakers and the 2020 Lakers was that team hated each other. They were ripping each other at the seams. There's a great book that was just written about it, by the way, kind of what happened between Shaq and Kobe behind the scenes. Just came out. I think Perlman wrote it about how that was, almost doomed from the start of that season. They had fallen short the year before to the Spurs. They add Malone and Payton as some older guys trying to get a ring. Malone was actually quite good that year, but that team wasn't united. I think your point about the Heat and the Lakers, Wilds, having great team chemistry is a brilliant one. And it's why, by the way, they're both 12-3 in the bubble. They have been the 2 best teams so far in the bubble. And I know people will say the Heat are a 5 seed, but they're not really, because the team that got them the 5 seed doesn't exist anymore. Myers Leonard was the starting center for that team. He's played 9 minutes in the bubble. In the playoffs. Tyler Hero's come back a new player. None is not even in the rotation really anymore. So they've reinvented themselves.
So you have to be nervous.
And typically, I don't think
you have to be nervous. If Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson is knocking down shots and AD is being checked by Bam, you have to be nervous. This is a ball game. A lot of people are just talking about the Lakers. This is going to be a good series to watch. Yes, 100%. But this is what you're supposed to do as a player. It's your job.
All right. So, Wilds, you talked about having to stop 2 guys. Only one's going to be MVP. Our friends at Fox Bet have LeBron listed as a -143 favorite to take home Finals MVP. It's a conundrum, Nick. It's a conundrum. His running mate, Anthony Davis, listed second at +250. So, Nick, what would it mean if Anthony Davis won Finals MVP over LeBron James?
Absolutely nothing, except for folks who are at this point drowning and trying to grasp for the final remaining possible life raft on an anti-LeBron James narrative. The idea, we've gone through so many iterations, and it just tickles me pink that we have landed on this one, because it's the last one left. It was LeBron went to LA for movies. Okay, that's gone. It was LeBron's forcing them to trade the young core for Anthony Davis. Is that even a good idea? That's gone. It was LeBron made them get rid of Luke Walton, the great Luke Walton, because he wanted a different coach. Okay, that's gone, because Vogel's done a great job and Luke Walton is struggling in Sacramento. Then it was the Clippers are better. That's gone. Then it was the bubble's going to be bad for LeBron. He has this big regiment for his body, and it's a 4-month layoff, and he got hurt last year, and now that's gone. And then it was, watch out for the Blazers, Rockets, Nuggets, that's gone. And now it is a championship actually going to be bad for LeBron's legacy? Because it might possibly come with someone else winning Finals MVP. The problem is this, Kevin Wildes. The exact same people shouting that, praying that into existence, are the people who 5 years ago, when they were terrified that LeBron was going to win a Finals MVP for a losing team, are on the record saying Finals MVPs do not matter, it's just the championships. Because in 2015, when he went 36-13-9 with Delly as his best teammate, and people thought he was going to win Finals MVP for the losing side, people were preemptively stating, well, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All that matters is the rings. And now, Kevin Wildes, the argument is going to be, well, does the ring really count if he doesn't win Finals MVP? I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. LeBron doesn't care, but that's what it is, Wildes.
Okay. I'll be quick. We have 1 minute left, Jen. I'll tell a quick story. I've had the all-time, who's the best all-time, with a few people like, who do you like, Jordan or LeBron? And I've had more than one famous basketball player said, don't leave Kobe out. You can't have this conversation without Kobe. And the strike against Kobe is that Shaq won those finals MVPs. So if you're going to hold that against Kobe, that those were Shaq's finals, then it's okay to say, hey, if AD
because Shaq was the best player
MVP.
on that team all year. Shaq was league MVP that year. He was the best player on the team. It wasn't just the finals MVPs. Everybody knows that. Stop talking to guys. Stop talking to Paul Pierce about LeBron, Wiles. Stop. You can't.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. It's about championships.
We got a game one tonight. Enjoy it.